Hello, Savannah. Welcome back to another version of Kandily Kesha. I'm so happy to be with you again on another Monday, a very, very wet Monday, I may add. Hopefully, you all are safe and getting home. And if you are not already home and settled, we ask that you not use your cell phones to try to listen to me. I know everybody's rushing to get in with Kandily Kesha. But what I want you to do right now, every citizen of Savannah, everyone who knows someone who lives in Savannah, everyone who loves Savannah, and everyone who loves someone who lives in Savannah, I want you to take this moment right now and share this podcast, share this platform right now with a friend, with a relative, with someone you know. Tell them they need to listen in to some very, very valuable information that we are going to receive from some very, very important people in our community. And we know that they should be here and be a part of this. We will be talking tonight about the selection of our new city manager. The process that is, and we will be weighing in on the candidates that we have who are vying for the top job of the Savannah city government, and that top job is called city manager. You should know that we have a council manager form of government, which means this chief executive officer we will be hiring is the man or the woman. They are the individual who essentially run the government. We, as council members, have one vote, along with the mayor. The mayor is the face and the voice of the city of Savannah. And we, as representative of the various districts, represent the voice of individuals in districts 1 through 6. Myself, along with Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely, are post 1 and post 2 at-large members of councils, meaning we represent all of Savannah, which was so important for me to host this platform so that you can hear from a great cross spectrum of Savannah about these various candidates, because you were not in the room. We want to first thank these individuals for investing hours on their Saturday to engage in local government. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you longtime community servant and politician, Mr. Tony Center, our very own dear friend, Pastor Valerie Grimes of Radiant Rising. I got it right this time. I always want to say Radiant Light or Radiant Church. Radiant Rising Church, it is. And congratulations to you on your new abode. I'm so excited and I can't wait to visit you. And then our very own resident historian, Dr. Jamal Teray himself, also known as Amir. Listen, he promised me tonight, and I won't start anything, but he did promise me tonight that we were not going to go tit for tat with that little high school rivalry thing, okay? The high. Anyway, and then we have Miss Tara Scott Brown, a dear friend of mine and longtime resident of Savannah, as well as community servant and activist. And then we have with us our intrepid Cloverdale Neighborhood Association President, Miss Melinda Gwen Thornton. What would we be without you, ma'am? And then we have on the job herself, Miss Sign Patrol, Miss Light Advocate, Miss Artist Wood. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight and weighing in. As promised, I don't want to keep you all too long, but I want to give you as much time as you need to do a bit of a round robin. We'll first start off by talking about the process, what it looked like, how you felt about it, and how confident do you think that process is in helping us as a council take your advice and lead us to the charge of selecting that city manager? And if you're not speaking, if you would mute the mic, and we're going to start with Pastor Grimes. And before I start, however, I do want to acknowledge that Neighborhood Association President Pam Miller could not be with us here tonight. She wanted to, but had a little mild procedure today. So we'll share her thoughts as well. But Pastor Grimes, why don't you go ahead and give us a start?
Thank you so much. It is great to be here tonight with you all. I will say that, first of all, I was glad to be a part of the process. You know, that was one of my concerns was, you know, whether or not there would be any citizen input in the process. And, you know, being a pastor here in the community of a new church, I wanted to make sure that the citizens of Savannah had an opportunity to have input. And so found out that that was possible and the date and time to be able to participate. So I was really excited about that piece. I will say I had some reservations about whether our input really mattered. You know, and the whole thing, I was like, you know, I'm wondering what is the real weight of what we think or the comments that we made, because we had opportunities to write our comments out and to even rank the, you know, how we thought each person, you know, whether they were first, second, or third. We had those opportunities. But in that process, I did wonder, you know, how much weight is going to be given to the community voice, you know, if any at all. But I was grateful that we did at least have the opportunity to do so.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And then if you could go ahead and tell us what your thoughts are on the various candidates, because I know you have to scoot out a bit. So we want to give you an opportunity to at least hear from the others, but also go ahead and weigh in on the three candidates that we have are Ms. Cheryl Long, Mr. Jay Melder, and our resident internal candidate, Assistant City Manager Heath Lloyd.
Absolutely.
In no particular order.
Okay. Well, I'll start with who you started with, Ms. Cheryl Long. I was impressed by her confidence. I will tell you, she is a confident sister. She came in, did not take a moment even to really, you know, seem like she was very familiar with those that she was in the room with. She answered the questions very easily, very straightforward. So I was pleased with that. I'm not really sure about the background, mainly because she has not been the lead in a large city as Savannah is. However, she was the lead, the only one that has ever sat in that seat before in any manner. She was the city manager of I think it was called North College, I think is what it's called. But anyway, she was the number one chair there and went on to Cincinnati, Ohio, where she sat among others. But she has quite a bit of experience and, like I said, is extremely confident and had some very good ideas. Jay Medler, is that his name? Help me with it.
Melder,
there we go. Same, he was, you know, very confident. I have to give him that. I will say though that with him, when he answered the questions, he answered with the ideas and the projects that other people initiated. I did not hear him give us information on any projects that he initiated from start to finish on his own. Now, he has some good ideas. However, they did not seem to be his own ideas. And so my thing with that is, you know, it's easy to duplicate what someone else has done, but do you have anything to offer of your own? And then our very own Mr. Heath Lloyd. What I was concerned about with Heath, same thing. He came in very confident, maybe a little too confident, if I have to say so myself. But he came in very confident. And my question is, if he is the best man for the job, why was he not considered in the first round that you all had a few months ago? And then if he is the best man for the job, my question would then be, what are you going to do different than has already been done? And I can honestly say I did not get my question satisfactorily answered. I don't know that he is going to do anything different than what the old guard has been doing. And we know that we do need something new. We need something geared towards the needs of our community. And so I don't know that he has anything new to give us, because he's been here 15 years sitting under pretty much that same status quo. So that was my concern with him. And so that's kind of how I feel about the three.
Thank you so much, Pastor Grimes, for speaking so candidly about the candidates. And you raised some very important highlights with regard to the fact that we are essentially selecting from a pool of number twos. And my concern going into the process, once I told that the job description changed at mid shift, was that it was more geared toward recruiting assistant city managers. And Savannah is not a job for a number two.
No,
Savannah is a job for a big number one,
yes.
for a big fish, not to be dismissive of any of these individuals' talent or experience. But what we do know is that we are in a crisis situation in so many areas, from crime to poverty to blight. And we need someone A1 day one who will be able to tackle the multifaceted dimensions that this city offers. You know, Savannah is quite special. We have a whole lot of what some cities have one or two of, maybe three. You know, we are a port community. We are a tourist town. We generate the most money, only second to Atlanta for our state. We are near a beach community, which makes us susceptible and prone to natural disasters. We are creeping up on almost 3 times the national average in poverty. Our crime rate is out the roof. Our morale and staff is very, very low. And so we need someone who's going to come in with some big britches and be able to tackle all of this. And that's what we're looking for in terms of the talent that these individuals bring to the table. But more importantly, we need our chief executive officer to be responsive to our staff, who is responsible for serving the community of Savannah. Thank you so much for that. Next, Ms. Tara Scott Brown, if I can have you, because I know you are on a time crunch, and Ms. Wood, if you can start preparing after Tara. Thank you so much.
Well, I wanted to go back to Reverend Grimes. Which category was your questions?
I was in with the community leaders and residents for the different resident councils in each community.
Yeah, Kesha, I think that's one of the things that the audience should know, the perspective that we're coming from. My group was the business community. And I won't say exactly what Reverend Grimes said about Mr. Lloyd being overly confident, but we could tell from his response that he favors everything that's going on currently. And again, I don't think that it may be anything differently. He talked about the all of the task force, and he kept talking about Van Johnson. And so we want to hear what you're going to do differently. We know that the city manager is supposed to help bridge the council together, and it just did. I mean, he has a lot of experience. He's been here for 15 years, and I like people to know the people that they're dealing with. But we're in different times now, and I do agree we need a change. I thought I was more impressed with Mr. What's his name from that's from DC. He has the connections that we need when we're talking about bringing in funds for affordable housing. He knows the people to contact because he's working on the federal level and has a lot of experience with that. I didn't get to hear the portion that you heard, Reverend Grimes, about whatever projects, but based on the business and bringing the money, he talked about he's a data person. He looks at the numbers, and he wants to target our poverty rate. We're talking about crime. We have to deal with poverty. And those things are hand in hand. When people don't have money, they go to the left, and so that's one of the things that impressed me about him. the young lady, Miss Lloyd. And this is my opinion. I didn't think that she was well prepared. We're in the interview with the business on the business portion of it. I think she was kind of scattered, kind of all over the place, and I was really done when her phone rung during the interview session. Yes, yeah. I was not impressed at all. But the two men, they seem to be the most prepared. But my question to you, Miss Kesha Gibson Carter, is Ms. Long was one of the top three, and I'm interested in knowing how many other candidates were y'all considering for her to end up being the top three. I just didn't see her as a top three.
Well, I can tell you that I was disappointed with the pool of candidates we had to select from, which was about 30. And I was a little taken aback because when we had the first search, that search yielded nearly 100 plus candidates that the firm helped us cut down to about 20, and then 10, and then 5, and then 3. This time, this firm was essentially hand selected by the city manager, Michael Brown. We had no say in the selection of the firm, 1. 2, I had a problem with the way the job description situation was handled, in that the job description was submitted after we reviewed it and offered comments. And then I was told by the firm that someone tweaked the job description, sent it back out, and it was at that juncture when it was more geared toward assistant city managers. So quite concerning. We're at the position where we have to accept what we're being told at this juncture, unless we don't want any more ethics complaints, do we?
I just want to say something right quick, Alderwoman, and Ms. Brown made a very good point, is that it does matter which room you were in. And I see now, hearing from her, because it's all of those things. It's how are you going to deal with the communities, the different neighborhood associations that are involved? How will you hear, their problems and work with them directly? But then there is also, like you said, that business community, and you want someone who is business minded, that already has the experience, that can come in and hit the ground running in that area. So thank you for doing that, because that is very, very true.
And so with that said, as we come into our discussion, if you would tell us what room or what classification you were assigned to with regard to your experience, that's a great point. Thank you for raising that. And so before you go, Miss Valerie, and before you go, Miss Scott Brown, I want you all to stick around for as long as you can and chime in whenever, but tell me, who are your picks? If you had to decide today.
If I had to decide today, it would be Jay Melder.
Okay, Miss Grimes, Pastor Grimes.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Well, I will say, if I had to decide today, based on what happened in my room, it would be Jay Melder as well, because even though they were not original projects, they were things that were worthy of duplication.
Thank you so much. Miss Wood, thank you for your patience, and thank you for saying yes. Weigh in about the process, and then let us know about the various candidates you had an opportunity to meet.
Hi, everyone. I was in the business end of things, and I'm a business person. I've been working over 20 years, so I'm scaling back. But nevertheless, I may have in the tourism industry, by the way, and I have this concern not only about tourism, but about generally how the country and the world measures things by numbers. And if we have more of something this year than we did last year, that means that we're doing well. If the GNP is up, then that's good. And I think I have to say, 15 million tourists a year, I would call enough. And I don't want to see us pressing that industry to have more and more. I think there is an imbalance with hotels and using us as a party place rather than a residential place, especially downtown. Not that I brought that up, but I'm just saying where I came from by the group I was put into. I thought that Ms. Long, is it, was full of enthusiasm, but I don't think she's prepared for this position for all that the reasons that I've already heard, so I don't have to reiterate those. I know Heath Lloyd from working with him on lighting, and it wasn't the subject so much as how he worked with the group that he was with. I found him, his ability to be above the fray and not get into the weeds, but to listen. He was a very good listener and resolved something of a conflict just by letting it be talked out and worked out rather than jumping in with, well, I know what to do because I'm the assistant city manager or whatever. So I thought his ability to work with people, as I have seen it firsthand, was very fine. The fact that he knows Savannah, that he apparently loves it like most of us do, and that he still seeks this position, and because it has been rough riding for this position in the past, I think speaks well. And the fact that he does have a lot of experience in Savannah means that he's ready on day one, I think, to move ahead and be effective. He doesn't have to be, quote, in training and being introduced to this person and that group and so on. So I think he is a fine candidate. Jay kind of put me off at the beginning because he was so non-expressive. And in fact, someone in another group said they had to ask him, do you have a sense of humor? And I felt the same way too, but that was only at the beginning. Toward the end, he loosened up and he showed he did smile toward the end, and he was back and forth about, restaurants and that we wanted to know about in Washington. And I thought, okay, you can be personable. And he said he is a man of consensus. I think I believe that. I find him a very professional, and the fact that someone just mentioned that he does have contacts and knowledge in DC, especially with this money coming down the pike, we hope will be used to get rid of the flyover for one thing. And I think he certainly has a leg up on that score. That's about as much as I can contribute.
Well, that was a good bit that you contributed. Thank you so much. So if you had to select today, who would your pick be?
I'm going to abstain. I'm sorry.
You're going to abstain. Okay.
Well, between the two gentlemen.
Between the two gentlemen. Gotcha. Thank you so much. And we appreciate all of the work and support you offer to the city of Savannah in your years of dedication in doing so. Miss Melinda Gwen Thornton, what do we have, ma'am? What do we have? And welcome, Mr. Carl Murray. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. You're muted.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting me.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity on both fronts. I considered it quite an honor to be a participant in this serious, life-changing, city-changing experiment or experience. It was honestly, and I don't know if the rest of you all went through this, but the process on a whole, as far as I was on the community panel, as far as the um, being the president of our Cloverdale community. So I was on the neighborhood panel. It was very difficult from the very beginning to get clarity on when we were going to be getting together, when this was going to take place, what time we needed to be there. I did have an opportunity to speak with uh, Amanda and speak with Miss Coleman, as well as uh, Daphne Williams, about how this was handled, which was not cool. And so many different groups, not really knowing what's going on. And then to be told it was going to be an interview when we were told that we would not be able to ask questions or hold conversation. That's not an interview. So I expressed my concern on that as well. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to speak with the moderator, and a few of us expressed our concern, which was similar. And thankfully, because of that, it was able to be a little bit looser, and we're actually able to speak with the candidates, and it did become an interview. So I really appreciate Mr. McMillan for that. As far as the candidates and my impression, Ms. Long, um, she presented well to me in the context of her skill set. Um, but those of you who know me, I shoot straight from the hip. I don't bite my tongue. Um, Bless her heart. But I think that in the context, as Ms. Brown, I think it was Ms. Brown or Ms. Valerie said, she was very confident to the point, I believe, of possible or potential intimidation. I think that there are enough very strong female individuals on council, and I think because of what is there now, she would be considered, because she'd be an additional threat to some of the men that's on the council now. Um, she is going to excel wherever she lands. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I don't believe that being the city manager for Savannah would be a good fit for her. As far as Mr. Melder, I was very impressed with him, but I was able to cheat a little bit because I hemmed him up outside. So I asked him some questions that I didn't get a chance to ask in the body. I asked questions about the infrastructure, and he was saying about numbers. He is a statistician, things of that nature. Um, and to echo some of the other comments, he did repeat some things that were other people's ideas. He did say something though that stuck with me, because I was expressing to him about my concern with the crime and the easy accessibility of guns. And he was not aware that we do not have the means or the permission, so to speak, to destroy the guns. So his question to me was, why would you have a gun buyback program when you can't destroy the guns? I said, now that's for you to answer. So he stated that in Washington, they actually have the means to destroy the guns. They have a meltdown or whatever. He used the terminology for it. But he was saying that would be something he would strongly check on getting, because it makes no sense for that to be, as I said to him, the hamster wheel of guns going back and forth. So as far as Heath Lloyd, and I'll wrap this up quickly, I have a very good rapport with Heath Lloyd. Coming into the position that I'm in, having some very large shoes to fill, for Mr. Cooper, but not trying to duplicate him, but try to carry the community forward. There were a lot of roadblocks we were running into. And when I needed some assistance, I made certain that I got in touch with the department heads, but I also made certain that I notified Heath Lloyd, the assistant city manager, because the more eyes you get on a situation, on a topic, you actually get more movement. So in the context of, being able to have gotten what the assistance that I needed for the betterment of the community, we were able to do that. But he was a little too confident. He was defending too much. And it made it abundantly clear to me that it was going to be a duplication or a continuation to some degree of what we're already dealing with, which was a disappointment. That was slight disappointment for me. One final thing, the deal breaker for me was the weeping time. Because that is a major issue that will change communities, that will change the lives of many here in Savannah. And Mr. Lloyd does not, he has not finalized his mind, I'll put it that way, on the statements of the original maps that show the clear boundaries of where the weeping time is. Not trying to make that a political or whatever, but the bottom line is you have a very large population of this city who has been affected for several years, and he has had a front row seat for the last 15 years to see what has been done to, and I use that phrase intentionally, what has been done to West Savannah and the 5th District. And changes are going to have to be made by whoever is in this seat as city manager. If you have a conscience, if you know that what has happened has been not justifiable, that has been egregious to those in these impacted areas, honestly, I can't go with Heath. I just can't. If I had to choose today, it would potentially be Mr. Melder.
Ms. Thornton, thank you so much for that information and for sharing so candidly with us. And
I do need to mention one more thing. As I said regarding the process, when I did receive the information, it did not come to me until 5:55, and our office closes at 5. I didn't get it until late on Wednesday evening. Some people didn't get it until even later than that, on Thursday. No, Thursday, forgive me. Thursday is when I received the information. Friday morning, I received a call back, and if I had not made certain phone calls, some vital individuals would not have been present, because I was told that when I posed the question, were the business community members going to be interviewing the candidates on Thursday and Friday? And I was told no, one was being interviewed on Thursday, but that the mayor and the city council was going to interview the finalists on Friday. I thought that was very interesting. So in order to ensure that that indeed was true, I called, and my alderwoman didn't know anything about it. And I also made a couple other calls to a couple of other alderpersons. They didn't know anything about it either. So as you all know me, I call it, the mayor in the pocket 4. And they were not a part of the mayor in the pocket 4. So I took it upon myself, yes, I did, I will not lie, to make certain that the other alderpersons who had no idea that this was going to take place on Friday, I made certain that they knew and that they could be present. If something is going to be rigged, at least get it right. And that's
Well,
what I
thank
say
you.
to them. So that's
Thank
me.
you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I want to say to you, thanks again for all that you are doing for the Cloverdale Neighborhood Association. And we do want to thank you for the heads up. We almost did miss our Friday interviews, but the information was sent to us and it was kind of buried in an email. But if we're all good, we got there, we got it done, and we're good. So thanks for having eyes and boots on the ground. Listen. We have Mr. Tony Center with us in the house, Mr. Tony Center. And then Mr. Murray, we're going to ask you to weigh in. Gentlemen, let us know what your thoughts are on the process. What is it that you feel went well? What do you think we can, well, we don't want it next time, do we? At least for the next 10 to 15 years. And we want to know and hear what are your thoughts about each of the candidates, and let us weigh in. You're muted, Tony.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you, first of all, Alderman Gibson Carter, for inviting me to be on the program. I'm honored that I was asked to be on one of the panels. I'm honored that you asked my opinion with your listeners in the community. I was on the panel, was it a year or several months ago, and I was very unhappy with the process then. It was so cold and straightforward, and there were so many people in my room, which was neighborhoods then, that really maybe 1/3 or 1/4 got to ask a question. And I agree with our Cloverdale president that I would prefer a give and take rather than we had to hand in our questions. But this year, for whatever reason, I was put in the business panel. I think I came early. I rode my bike there, and they said, well, let's go ahead and go in the business panel. I'm an attorney. I don't own my own business, so to speak. I was in the business panel, and there were fewer people, and it was more of a warm atmosphere. Even though it was, you had to hand in your questions and have them read to you, it was a warmer atmosphere because there were fewer people. I could readily pick out who asked which question. I knew Artist's question right away when it was asked, and I confronted her afterwards. It was the tree canopy. And afterwards, we did get some time to speak to each person. And I heard your opening comments. I was more impressed with these three people than with the three we had several months ago. Was it a year or I thought for whatever reason it didn't come to fruition last time, turned out well, because I thought all three of these candidates were better than all three of the ones we had before. And I ranked them almost all the same. They each had confidence, ability, strength, and I tried, how are you going to compare one to the other? Let me say this, I took some notes. I do remember, I can't remember the exact specific incidents, but in the business panel, Mr. Melder did point out one incident where he brought up his own idea for something, but I can't remember exactly what it was. And I don't have any hesitation about choosing a number two to be our number one. Everybody starts on the first rung of the ladder. And, just because they're number two somewhere else, and that's the loss for that community. I also don't think any one of these three pushed for more tourists. Every one of them recognized, because I was in the business panel, that tourism is a tremendous revenue generator and it's a tremendous business. And you can see anybody who's been out in Savannah this past weekend or Father's Day weekend could see these hordes of people downtown at all hours. I don't think they pushed for more tourists, but they talked about a balance between tourists and residents and managing it and handling it while continuing it as a flourishing business. When I rank them all, and I like Ms. Long Ms. Long was the only one who talked about her family. I like that because I want to know more about them personally. But she made one comment about one of the reasons she loves Savannah and is happy, but she's looking to move. She said her boss became the city manager of Virginia Beach, and she got a new number one. And she said she found out that you're not happy in your job if you can't control your boss. And those were her words. And I didn't understand it. It sounded like a negative to me that she's looking for us because she's not happy with whoever got number one instead of her. I don't know, but that's what I heard. Otherwise, she was like the other two candidates, very knowledgeable, very straightforward, very confident in wanting this job. With Heath Lloyd, you're right. We get 15 years of experience. He knows the city. We had an incident in my neighborhood square over the weekend, and somebody said, well, I'm going to call Dietrich because he was the alderman. And Dietrich said, can I put you on speakerphone? Tell you, this happened to be Eddie was walking through and somebody said, there's the mayor. And we said, he's not the mayor anymore, but he called Dietrich. And Dietrich said, let me put you on speakerphone. And within 5 minutes, Captain Heron showed up to handle the problem. And I told my wife, I wasn't out there, I said, well, it had to be Heath Lloyd because he's the only one who would know to call Captain Heron. And it was. So he does have experience. On the other hand, with the other two candidates, I think bringing someone from the outside with different ideas and talent overrides having the experience. Because even though Keith has experience, he's been here, and the new ideas from outside our community may be more beneficial for us. And I see DC more like Savannah than I see Cincinnati like Savannah. It's an African American population, African American leader. They have crime issues. And I was very impressed with Melder when he said, well, his background, he has worked for the federal government. He worked for a Wall Street firm, so he knows business stuff, and he talked to money people. And now he's an assistant, I don't know if they call it manager, what his title was, but he's number 2 in D.C. I definitely thought, while he never mentioned it, he could have connections with the federal government that could benefit us. You know, I know in the county and the city and the trade center all at a time hired lobbyists at a fee to work in D.C. Well, here's a guy who knows all the players and can be very helpful in that. I thought they were all very good. I gave them all high marks. I gave a 1, and a equal to or less than 1 to Ms. Long. I think because of that comment. I don't think you can go wrong. I did like Mr. Melder the best too, and I was concerned about saying it until the other panelists said it. He's very knowledgeable from a little town, Louisiana. They all had great degrees. He's worked for the federal government. He's worked on Wall Street, and he gave that up to go be a city administrator. And he did it in one of the cities that, like he said, it's not just a city, it's a county, it's a state. And you can't have more egos concentrated in one location than we have concentrated in Washington, D.C. And he has to manipulate that. You know, we're all dying to put him aside and ask about January 6th just to see what's his input, but we never got to that. I think y'all did, like I say, whatever the reason was we didn't choose from the other 3, I think it's better for Savannah because these guys feel like all their personalities would fit in with our city. I also wonder if we hire Heath and make him the manager, then you're going to have to fill his position. There's going to be a void that has to be filled, and I guess the city manager picks that one, not the council, but he's got to ask y'all for help. So I would prefer Melder because I think you keep Heath in place. And I was concerned, you know, here I am, you know, picking someone. You know, what are my own inner biases that might affect it? I kept stepping back and wondering, but I thought they were all very good.
That's what I was going to ask you. What was your reluctance even here tonight? I was curious to know that.
Well, you know, I pay attention to what's going on. You know my political leanings, but still, you wonder if everybody has their own inner biases. And am I going to be inner biased towards a male rather than a female? Am I going to be inner biased towards a white than a black? I hope not. But you never know what's making yourself think. But I mean, I'm even reading Chuck Fagan saying that he could put a comment on, and Chuck and I battle all the time that he would pick Melder. I'm worried about that, and I'm very concerned about it. But I think Melder is just a little bit better than everybody. Yeah.
Thank you for being honest about that, Tony. And that's one of the important things I want to be able to share on my platform tonight is the recognition that when we look at this city manager job, if we are really serious about changing the direction and the trajectory of Savannah, we have to really be serious about looking at what she needs, right? And looking at what she doesn't have. And we cannot allow ourselves to put in the way proximity where relationship, friendship, and kinship is concerned, nor can we compromise standards related to race and gender. For far too long, our city has relished in African-American leadership in this town. And I think we are somewhat taxed to some extent with striking a delicate balance with gravitating toward Black candidates in leadership, recognizing that the majority of our voting constituency here in Savannah, as well as our population, is African American. We have to look at what has that leadership given us, what has it left with us, right? And so no longer can we in communities, particularly those vulnerable communities, no longer can we subject our safety, subject comfort, subject economic drivers, and subject the potential for our communities being what they should be because of race or because of gender. We have to now be in position to hold whomever accountable, Black, white, male, female, whatever the situation. We can no longer uh, be enamored with someone who looked like us to the extent that we don't hold those individuals accountable.
Right.
So, Tony, we hope that people will start to go forth more with those ideals and those thoughts versus, hinging on those biases that sort of drive our decisions. So, Melder would be your pick, sir. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Tony, and thank you again for saying yes. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And let me also say, I like your comment that you're looking for someone for 15 years. Nobody knows, will this administration be here and this panel of commissioners be here for another 3 years, another 7 years? And no one knows. So looking to hire someone who's going to go beyond that term. I like when you said that, we're looking for someone for 15 years, who knows? I really appreciate your comment on that.
Yeah, and along those lines, Tony, we also want to recognize that the way we migrated at work yesterday is different from how we do it today. People stayed on jobs 15, 20, 30 years ago. But by today's standards, you're looking on average, I did some research during the last city manager search, 5 to 7 years. I'd like to think that Savannah is a very, very attractive community that could really sustain a city manager for 15 years at least, at minimum. We need that type of cohesion just because our staff has suffered so greatly with all of the different interim city managers as well as city managers. I'll get you, Ms. Wood. Thank you. And so the comment related to me being concerned about a number 2, Tony, was more to the point of because I once was a number 2, so I root for those underdogs, and all number 1s had to start from someplace. My only concern is that we have so much going on all at once that I just personally feel like we need somebody who has a plethora of experience coming to the table A1 day one. But thank you again for those comments, and please stick around and chime in later if you will. Ms. Wood, you had a question or a comment?
Yes, I didn't get a chance to ask Jay this, but he has more money and more responsibility. I wonder why he picked Savannah, which is less, I think, in both regards. And also, did anyone hear from him that he was willing to stick around? I don't want this to be a stepping stone for him to go someplace else.
Well, I can't answer that question, but what I will say is, if you think about the city managers who we have had, and you think about the city managers who have departed, they don't leave on their own. They don't decide to resign, or they don't decide to quit. They get fired or they get replaced by the councils who are in charge. And so that's one of the things we want our community and our citizens to know, where accountability is concerned. You have to hold your public officials accountable and encourage them not to get caught up in minutia and really get out of the way and let these individuals do the job that they were hired to do. But so often we see with history, where our city managers are concerned, politics sort of broke through somehow and hampered their service to our city. So it's my hope that some accountability. The citizens, I think, Ms. Wood, you would agree that the optics have never been on Savannah City Council as much as they are now. And so we have promoted a more engaged citizenry. And I feel like council members will be better on their P's and Q's where decorum and professionalism is concerned when allowing our city manager to do his or her job.
Thank you.
Mr. Murray, Mr. Murray, Mr. Murray, don't be in a hurry. What do we have, sir?
I have nothing. Everything has already been said. Well, I was in the same room with Miss Thornton, and I guess I'm going against the grain because Miss Long, she seemed to be comfortable in the room. Maybe it was how she, we were engaging with the candidates, but she seemed like she was pretty comfortable, and seemed like she has experience. I must say I wasn't honestly being very attentive to every little thing that was said. But I tried to take some notes, and one thing that stuck with me with Ms. Long was that she mentioned about an equity component, and also that excuse me, also that although she doesn't have 15 years experience and a whole lot of political connections, but she don't really know anyone. She have no connections here either. So to me, I'm willing to give someone like that a chance because I believe we need a new direction. And Mr. Miller, I mean, he's well versed, well qualified. I liked everything he said. I don't have anything uh, negative to say about any of them. Actually, he mentioned about coming from a small town and how he liked, the feel of Savannah. Um, he mentioned about adjusting the budget, dealing with flooding issues. Mr. Lloyd, to me, and another panelist had mentioned, to me, he seemed overconfident. And maybe that's just my bias, but someone who was on uh, not city council, but with the city administration for 15 years, that just kind of make me feel, and it's not nothing personal. I know this guy from the average Joe walking on the street. Believe it, I do not know him. It's just that his responses, it was defensive of the city handling business, and I mean, I can't expect him to say anything negative. He worked for the city, but it's just how he responded. It didn't come off with a good feel to me, and it more or less confirmed that I feel it would be business as usual by selecting the guy. I mean, it's not personal. It's just how how I feel about it. The feel I got from him. Mr. Miller, again, he was well versed. He came out the box mentioning about he worked on the Obama administration, and to that point, he he should have connections on getting us or getting Savannah resources. But who's to say it's going? I don't know. I'm not going to go that route. It's just that not, nothing is a sure thing with any of them. It's just that what stuck with me was Miss Long personality, how she came across in the meeting. She mentioned about she has I believe she said it was a son that attends Savannah State, and I'm really going to express my little personal bias. I guess I'm leaning toward her also because and it's not a political position, supposedly the city council member, but I'm not the city manager, that is. But one stat is African American women are the largest voting bloc in the Democratic Party. So I'm just being honest about it. I feel that she should be given an opportunity. If I had to choose today, and I mentioned my reason why I would choose Ms. Long, Mr. Miller, and I don't think Mr. Lloyd should. It may sound harsh, but I'm wondering also, why didn't he put his name in the hat the last time around? That's some of the thoughts that ran through my mind. You know, and actually, and actually, I believe the candidate that the media character assassinated was the better out of the whole lot. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murray. Now, what do you think about the process?
Well, when I first got there,
Not that we want to do this again.
no. Well, when I first got there, and I was running a few minutes late, and actually I got a phone call, I believe Thursday. I never got an email. The young lady from, and I don't remember her name, the young lady from the city had mentioned that she had my email wrong or whatever. I gave it to her. I never received it. I just assumed I was on the list, so I showed up, and lo and behold, they had my name on the list. But also, as far as candidates, it seemed like it was like a keystone problem for a moment. I'm not saying anything Mr. Margaret. He handled everything fine. It's just organized. One guy, I believe his name was Brett Bell, he came in the room. He didn't really have to go back and find out really one or three balance and evaluations. So the process as a whole, I'm going to be brutally honest. I feel it was just going through motion. I don't think our citizen input would really get a whole lot of weight. If it did, it would have been, overall has been handled.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. You were cutting in and out a little bit. If you are better at recalling information than I am, a few of the words I did hear you say, I'd like for you to share a little more. So if you can take some time while Dr. Teray closes us out and type in the comment section so that we can hear that final thought, because I want to capture some of what you had to say, sir. Thank you again for your devotion to Savannah, and we appreciate your time here tonight as well. Dr. Teray, you ready, sir? Are you ready to close us out? Are you ready to close us out? Dr. Teray? Dr. Teray? Warrior to Blue Jacket. I never could tell when he's joking me or when he's being serious. Did we lose him? Warrior to Blue Jacket. Warrior to Blue Jacket.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Barely. Well, while we wait for him to come back on, again, I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Yes, we have storm interference everywhere. I'm fortunate that we haven't lost the signal here tonight. And I think we may have gotten in enough information to give a good idea to the citizens who were not in those rooms, and to give citizens who did not have the opportunity to meet these candidates up close and personal. Our good friend Handy Dandy Google gives us so much information. So we encourage each of you to Google these individuals, be a little Snoop Doggy Dog, and see what type of information, additional information that is, you can find out about them and see if they will be a good fit for Savannah. We want to continue to give some time to Dr. Teray to come in and share with us as well. If you have any questions, be sure to put it there in the chat and we will respond accordingly. Of course, I can't divulge my decision or my pick or what my thoughts were on the candidates, but I will, after this election, I will happily share with you my thoughts and give you some information with regard to the process and what I think of it. So I don't know if it's our connection. My connection is good. Ms. Brown, are you good? Mr. Murray, are you good? Is everybody? Everybody's frozen. What's going on with our connection?
Can you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Did we lose Dr. Teray altogether?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Wood, also, if you have some time tomorrow, I would like to have a conversation with you. We have a lot of action and information sharing with regard to horse-drawn carriages downtown. I've been hearing from opponents, and we want to hear from some of the residents and individuals who have their ear to the ground with regard to horse-drawn carriages in Savannah so that we can adequately respond to some of the issues at hand. Okay, Madam Engineer. You know, the timing, if we can't get back together, was actually pretty good. So, I believe we got most of the information in anyway. Let's see here. Mr. Center.
Yes, I bounced and I'm trying to get back on, so I'm watching you on Facebook.
Okay. I hear you fine now. Okay, Ms. Scott, I'm going to yield to your direction. We want to give it a few more minutes to see if we can get Dr. Teray. Oh, maybe I can get him on the phone here. Maybe, can you hear me, Director Scott? Put in the chat if you can hear. Okay, so I'm going to just call Dr. Teray. How about that? And see if we can hear him. We always.
Yo, I'm right here. I'm right here. That's why y'all got me backstage. I've been on the fence the whole time.
Okay, he said she's backstage.
I'm on mute.
Okay, Dr. Teray, go ahead.
As I was saying, what just happened is how I feel about the whole process. It was a wag process. It was wag. It was inappropriate. I'm gonna tell y'all something that again, the first time I ever went to Haiti, they're gonna take me to a ceremony. I told them, I said, when you take me to a ceremony, do not take me to a fake ceremony. And so guess what? When I was in that room on Saturday, and Brother Carl Murray was right next to us, what I did witness, it was like they did not take us serious. They did not have the cards. They were telling us that you got to go automatically go ahead and then go ahead and give your ranking, but you didn't even hear from everyone. And I said, this is fake right here. This is not sincere. So no matter how everybody else might want to think it's all glorious, I want to say my perspective is that it was not done right. It was not done correct, and that I think that the opinions of the citizens really doesn't matter. That is a group of people, no matter what somebody going to say. Again, when it came down to the part, you see my rankings were, you see that I had to get a sheet of paper. Charles McMillan even write it down. They walked off with the thing. Oh, excuse me, they probably didn't have the cards. So that's why I'm like saying it wasn't respectful. So no matter what we're talking about, we're glorifying something that was inept. It was absolutely inept. And then what I said, that's what the city officials, the city employees will hold the citizens accountable if they made mistakes like that. But here you go now, we can't even hold the city employees accountable for something like that. And we are glorifying it. I sat there like, this is a bunch of crap right here. This is not sincere. And then, like I said, remind me about a big ceremony that I went to in Haiti. It is no better right now. Do you think that I think the people are going to get who they really want? And I wish it was y'all, no matter what y'all may say about the law, something that Ms. Murray said, she talked about equity. She understood that. She made that point clear. No one else brought that point up about equity. No one else discussed that. And so, yes, she did figure it out. Even though you might go and say, oh, he worked for the Obama administration. I thought Nelson did a great job. I thought he was fine. He might work for the federal government, but guess what? So let me go and share this with you. Joe Biden would not have won if it was not for James Clyburn. So what happened with all the other Democrats? That showed me right there that you just can't go by reputation, that at least think of somebody that was talking and sharing, that I found her to be a communicrat. That was my perspective. So if I had to go and put it out there to you, I would go and say wrong. But I would go back and say this. I thought that Odie Donald was one.
Okay, so I think that is it for tonight. Let me see. Let's see here. Okay, the last thing you said was mute your screen and let's talk here. The last thing you said was you thought Odie Donald was the better candidate from the very first search. And Mr. Odie Donald is now the city manager of Augusta, Georgia, and I hear they are doing very well.
Yes, ma'am. I'm signing off it. Yes, ma'am. And so that's what I thought. So when we go and make it seem like we can have great candidates before, I'm not saying, oh, I think those folks were great people right there that we had before. And guess what? There was a snafu that was thrown in, a monkey wrench was thrown into the process to stop that process right there. Mm-hmm. So guess what I didn't say with regards to this process when we not go and meet on Saturday, there's confusion from the city staff as to what will be the instructions to the citizens right there. And I'm like saying, this is a smoke screen right here. No matter how we might want to try to print it like it's cotton candy is not substantial to help us. So again, my perspective, I thought that again, Ms. Long indicated that she wanted to have Ruth say also. I thought Melvin was fine. And with Heath, I have no problem with Heath having a confidence. I thought that was proper. He did indicate something that he said to us that again, he is not Michael Brown, he's not Pat Monahan. That he is a person of his own plan. I respect that. But again, I'm going to say, I don't think that the process was one that really the people's voices are going to be heard. I think it was just perfunctory. And let me be clear about that. It was perfunctory and it was a ritual. And so we can go ahead and act like, oh, these people are really going to be listening to us. I'm like, come on now. The stuff that we saw, the disrespect, I don't know. In the business group, it might have been okay for the business group. But the lack of respect that I saw and I observed how this was handled, that if you tell us in the beginning of the month, you need us to be there on the 26th, why do you only receive information 3 days or 4 days before the process? That's absolutely incorrect. We will tell the citizens, if they did something like that, you're going to lose your water's going to get cut off. You're going to lose. And so I'm like, Stop. So that is hypocritical. So you want to try to tell me that my voice really matters? No, it's not mattering right now. But what we need to do, we need to make a wholesale change all together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teray. I was really insistent that I get you to weigh in because you are one who pay attention and you follow. You're not a Johnny-come-lately. You don't get information off the cuff and run with it, but you have been paying attention, not just since my arrival at City Hall, but for some time. You've been really, really into the weeds of our local government, and we appreciate you. And so we have 2 votes for Long and 2 votes for Long, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for Belder, 1 abstention, and I guess we'll give a halfway vote to Heath from Ms. Artist Wood, if you will. Thank you all so very much for weighing in and sharing in on this very, very important topic. I'm going to ask those of you who have been with us tonight. First, I want to thank you. I want to first thank you for sticking with us tonight. It is clear that people are interested in what is going on in Savannah, and they want to see a difference. More importantly, they want to be a part of the process. And I hope tonight gave them an opportunity to feel like they are a part of the process. So if you have heard anything here tonight based on what our panelists have shared and based on your own research, we want you to reach out to your district representatives and tell them that you know better about this candidate and you want them to cast their vote or to lend their support to this particular candidate. There are 9 votes that will be considered in our city manager search. Each of us have 1 vote, but we have to listen to your collective voice. And I will commit to you to continue to do exactly that. And so I don't want to hold you much longer tonight because we're over time, but we do have a lot of information to share with you with regard to crime. I am trying to get a town hall meeting scheduled. For some reason, the city manager has advised that he can't provide support to me to host a town hall. So to our local pastors out there who are willing to open your doors, please contact me to let me know if I can use your church to host a town hall. We are going to continue to press on in spite of all of the craziness that ensues in our local government. And I am your alderwoman who is most concerned about this top job. And I pray to God that he just sends us somebody normal and fair. That's all. Someone normal and fair. And without further ado, Dr. Teray, I have a gift for you because you always say yes and you're so dedicated to me. And we really appreciate all that you do for the community. So I want to share this with you and just say how much we appreciate you, sir. And I want to know if you like this. You see that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I like it.
You like it? Okay. Thank you, sir.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you, sir. Listen, I love you, Savannah, and good night.